Felix the Reaper is a charmingly morbid puzzler that sees you in control of the titular little life ender on his first day of work at the Ministry of Death. But far from being down about his career and the dealing of people's demise, Felix instead has a spring in his step and a song in his heart to help him boogie through all the mundane murder and hopefully win the love of his afterlife. Created by Danish developer Kong Orange, Felix the Reaper is built around a relatively straightforward puzzle system. You are dropped into a series of small, gridded, isometric levels, where your ability to navigate is dictated by the direction of the sun. Only allowing you to step in the shade requires you to move certain objects, while also switching the sun between two different axes at the push of a button. Previewing where the shadows will fall allows you to avoid getting hit, items can be stacked to create longer shadows, and you do this all with the goal of moving one specific item to a particular location. On paper, it's a simple little puzzle idea that could work with any number of different settings and style choices, which is why it's so surprising to see just how bizarre and surreal of a direction the developers chose to take. As a worker from the underworld, Felix must manipulate each stage in a way that eventually leads to the target snuffing it. This is explained through quick, quirky cutscenes that bookend most levels before time is frozen and Felix hotfoots his way onto the scene via televator. These little setups are actually the most humorous part of the game. Watching little beat puppet marionettes with their really creepy Burton-esque features bumble about unaware of their impending doom. This premise alone could have been enough to stand out as a unique little game, but the devs didn't stop there, deciding to, in the character of Felix, create what could be described as the total antithesis of the typical Grim Reaper. The large, love-struck harvester of souls has a particular penchant for dance and mindlessly grooves and moves his way around the board, joyfully setting pieces in place before swiftly leaving, oblivious to the often gruesome results. The concept of a light-footed, music-loving, murdering oaf is undeniably endearing. Although, apart from allowing the game to adopt a rather eclectic soundtrack, which, while diverse, isn't as catchy as it probably could be, overall it doesn't really add anything to the moment-to-moment gameplay. Rather, it's just an extra bit of silly in an already very silly game. And that kind of sums up a lot of the look and feel of Felix the Reaper. The design and story feel like colourful window dressing hung onto more interesting puzzle mechanics. And thankfully, the puzzles themselves are all designed with a healthy balance of being solvable without being outwardly obvious. There is an incentive to attempt them within limited time, moves, and without catching any rays. But this does seem more for return replays, as tougher puzzles can result in a heap of trial and error. The best of these stages revolve around that duck, fox, seed style puzzle, where you know what you need to do, but you have to go back and forth to work out the right sequence. Unlike a small handful of stages with far too many moving pieces that can leave you scratching your head and ultimately resenting Felix for his optimistic little idle dancing. Fortunately, there is also a generous hint system that can help guide you to the final step or two of each puzzle. And rather festive party prompts will let you know you're at least on the right track. But it's also easy to become reliant on these in what does turn out to be a relatively short game. Overall, it's clear that these Danish developers have poured a lot of love into both Felix and his twisted tale, even going so far as to employ the narration work of Captain Jean-Luc Picard himself, Sir Patrick Stewart.
By the way, about your little quirk, as we've discussed, some of the other Reapers find it somewhat, unnerving.
But with an upcoming slew of blockbuster AAA games to ring in the end of the year, I do worry that a smaller title like Felix the Reaper might have trouble keeping people's attention beyond its quirky aesthetic and novel puzzle design. However, just like the high-spirited Spectre himself, this charming little head-scratcher carries itself with a level of confidence that definitely deserves your respect, even if some of these dance moves might not.